Hi, Simple Class. Continue reading the excerpt. So there's going to be some text on the screen. They can always stop and read. It's going to have some questions, and the start is just a summary of where we're up to help you remember. So we're going to start reading the chapter The Trap. If you want, you can stop and you can try and make some predictions before we start. Fred woke twice in the night to find his nose pressed against the bare stones and mud of the floor, and his breath coming in gasps. His father's back was turned to him, and he wouldn't look round, even though Fred screamed until his lungs were empty. A dream, he muttered. Dreams don't matter, not real. But it had felt very real. Real like blood is real. There was a chilly lump of guilt sitting in his stomach left over from the previous night. He had never stolen anything in his life, never even tried. He looked towards the vines, shining vivid emerald in the morning light. He thought of the look on the explorer's face. It had been more than angry. It had had fear in it. He would have to apologize. The thought made his stomach squirm with humiliation, but he couldn't leave the explorer thinking he was a habitual thief, a liar, a cheat. He wasn't sure if the man was the kind to accept apologies. It might be akin to apologizing to one of the stone statues, but he would try. Fred walked slowly through the open air, staring upwards. The canopy over them was intricately constructed, woven from the branches of the trees that had sprouted among the stones and nestled against the city walls from a network of vines. It was a green tablecloth for a giant, laid out atop the trees. Fred approached the stone statues, his stomach knotting tighter with every step. They were twice as tall as he was, and so worn by rain and time that their faces were smoothed of expression. The man and woman were identifiable only by their bodies, the panther by her tail, but still, in places he could see where the tools had cut at the stones. He reached out and touched the panther's paw. Only half of it remained, but he could see where her claws had been, how her yellow stone would have glowed when she was new. The explorer, though, was nowhere to be seen. Fred was about to turn tail and run when he heard deep breathing ahead of him. The explorer was asleep in a hammock woven from vines in the shade of a tree. He lay on it diagonally, stretched out in that direction. It was almost as flat as a bed. Fred made the mental note to only lie in hammocks diagonally from now on. Fred moved closer. The explorer looked much younger, asleep, and softer. Boy! The man did not open his eyes. At least he didn't seem to. I hope you have good reason for waking me. Fred's chest grew hot. Sorry, How did he know it was him? He must, Fred thought, have been peeping through his eyelashes. I could smell you, said the explorer, as if Fred had asked the question aloud. And you all breathe differently. The English girl breathes through her teeth. The Brazilian girl with the ropes of hair breathes as though she fears waking the world. The small boy appears to be breathing through a barricade of snot. And right now, you're breathing as if you're afraid I plan to throw a knife into your kneecap. Fred flinched, but the explorer didn't seem to notice. He sighed and stretched. Ugh, it's no good now. I'm awake now. In future, boy, it's best not to come near me when I'm asleep. If you need to wake me, throw something from a safe distance. Why? I have a startle reflex. Fred must have looked as puzzled as he felt. The man added, I was captured once. By Germans? No. By natives? Not by the people you're thinking of, not by the indigenous people to whom this land belongs, but by the owners of a rubber company. I didn't like how they were treating the people who lived in this forest around them. Is that how your leg? I have little desire to talk about it. Fred stepped backwards. There were looks that made you want to hide behind your own back. He forced himself to speak. I wanted to come and say I'm really sorry about last night. It was coming out wrong. It sounded as if he was apologizing for failing to hold a door open. Properly sorry. The explorer raised a single, unimpressed eyebrow. Fred began to stammer. Fear dug into his belly. It wasn't. We weren't going to take anything or break anything. But it was dishonest and counterproductive, said the explorer dryly. Quite. Fred flushed. For the first time he met the explorer's eyes, he nodded. Yes, it was. I didn't mean to do those things, but I was. You're right to be angry. He stared at the floor as he turned back towards the sleeping house. As he turned away, back towards the sleeping house. Wait! Fred turned. The explorer began to tie his shoes. Then he pulled out a knife from his pocket. Fred waited, the tension building in his chest. At last, the explorer said, I'm going to set a trap. He splashed water on his face. You may as well learn